Hey, what's going on, guys? It's the SS Ultimate Goku back with another video. We're going to talk about uh, Daniel Bryan and what's next for him, and sort of his match and all this stuff. I thought he did really good with his match with AJ, and his WrestleMania match. We're all good. And fortunately, this match ended in DQ with Shinsuke. Uh, I don't know what's next for Bryan. I mean, we have the SmackDown Raw shakeup. I really hope Daniel Bryan stays on SmackDown, though. I really hope. Like, that would be the best case scenario for him. I don't want him to wind up on Raw. Um, you know, especially with Lesnar as the champion. I doubt they would ever put the belt on him with Lesnar as champion. This is, of course, depending on if Roman Reigns is, winning the title or not in Saudi Arabia. I heard people saying, well, in Saudi Arabia, they'll cheer for Roman or whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, if that's their plan, I mean, like, that is so stupid. That is, because it's like, what, when he gets, and I'm like, okay, well, what happens when he gets back to the States and they start booing him? Like, WWE gets his accomplishment. Yeah, he get cheered, and then he gets booed for the rest of his title run. Yeah, it makes sense. And then, of course, Lashley, I doubt he's getting moved since he just came back. I'd love to see Bobby Lashley go up against Lesnar, too, by the way, for the record, if Lesnar keeps the title in the Saudi Arabia event, because I don't think he's going to be at Backlash. It seems like that way, because Backlash is going to be right. I don't know how the shakeup's going to affect. I mean, obviously it would affect the Saudi Arabia Greatest Royal Rumble pay-per-view or whatever. I don't know why they're calling it the Greatest Royal Rumble pay-per-view or whatever. I mean, why couldn't they just call it a different pay-per-view name? The Royal Rumble was in January. It was for the road to WrestleMania, and now we have to have this 50-man Royal Rumble. Is it going to win anything? Like, does the person that wins this Royal Rumble going to get a title shot at Backlash? Probably not, or the pay-per-view after. Maybe not Backlash, and Backlash happens like 2 weeks later or whatever, or a week later. Maybe at the pay-per-view after Backlash. Because I mean, that's the only, why even be in a Royal Rumble match if you're not going to win anything out of it? You know what I'm saying there? Doesn't make sense. From what I'm heard, the people in Saudi Arabia paid a lot of money for this event, so that's why they're doing this. That's why it's, becoming a huge deal type thing. But in terms of Daniel Bryan, I mean, I really hope he stays on SmackDown. I'm assuming AJ's gonna stay on SmackDown because the Universal title is red, and they would have to change the belt design to blue. I don't think they're doing that. I know there was those leaked pictures of the original Universal title design. For anyone who doesn't know, the Universal title was supposed to be a SmackDown title. But, of course, as we all know, Roman Reigns got suspended during that time, and he had to lose the WWE title. And that's what led to the Universal title or the WWE title going to SmackDown instead, and the Universal title going to Raw. But, I mean, I don't know how long AJ's going to even be champion for right now. I mean, he might lose it and then might win it back. I don't know what they decide to do with him, because he's been the champion for a while now. I don't think Shinsuke should win it. Shinsuke does not deserve it. Even turning heel now, I don't think he's ready still to be champion. And if anything proves, his WrestleMania match proved that he is just not on the league and the caliber to be the WWE champion. He's not. He has done nothing since going on the main roster. I mean, he had one good match with Rusev and Fastlane, and that was it. His WrestleMania match was okay. feedback I'm getting from everyone that watched the Tokyo match or whatever that they had have said the match was not nearly as good and was a complete letdown. Just, what I thought, was, too many people bought into that. Just because it was good in Japan doesn't mean it's good here. Shinsuke style does not work in the United States. It does not work in the WWE. It's period. It doesn't. He has not done anything to prove that he deserves to be in that spot. I would not put the title on him. I mean, they did put the title on Jinder, so I guess anything is freaking possible at this point. But I would not put the title on him. Absolutely not. I would not put it on Saudi Arabia. I would not put it on him at Backlash. I would not put it on him. I would go for someone else. I'm assuming they're leaning towards him, facing him at the greatest Royal Rumble Saudi Arabia event right now. But I don't know where that leaves Bryan on that card. But probably will be in the Rumble. Again, I don't know if that would give him the number one contender spot or whatever. I mean, I think it should. For at least the pay-per-view. If he wins this Royal Rumble, though, does this mean that, does it count towards the actual Royal Rumbles? Or, when they, go through, the statistics of the Rumbles, it's oh, yeah, this guy won a Rumble. Does that count? Because I wouldn't want him to win it then. Because I'd rather him win next year's Royal Rumble. Next year's real Royal Rumble. I don't know. I mean, the best case scenario for Daniel Bryan right now is to kick him on SmackDown, keep AJ on SmackDown. Like I said, I don't know how long AJ will be champion for. But keep Bryan away from AJ at least for a little bit, until you're ready to either do it at WrestleMania or at SummerSlam. They could do it at SummerSlam, depending on what they're doing with Lesnar right now for the Universal title. If Brock wins at this event, the greatest Royal Rumble match, I'm thinking he's not going to be at Backlash because they're going to have the WWE Champion wrestling. So they could, they have not announced that AJ is going up against Shinsuke at the greatest Royal Rumble event yet. So what they could do is they could just wait for them to do that at Backlash, since it's a both brand pay-per-view now, and not, since, they're having the Brock Universal title match at, the greatest Royal Rumble pay-per-view event. That's what they could do here. Okay. That's what they could do. In terms of what they do with Daniel Bryan, I know a lot of people have said that he should feud with The Miz. The Miz definitely could possibly be coming back to SmackDown. But I don't know how long that could last. I mean, you can do it possibly at Backlash or even the next pay-per-view after that. But ultimately, that feud really isn't going to accomplish nothing for Bryan in terms of getting into the championship contender match. Miz is a freaking mid-card. He's only going to go for mid-card titles at this point, and rightfully so, because he doesn't deserve to be in the main event. Still cringe to the fact that he actually was in a WrestleMania main event at one point when someone like goddamn CM Punk wasn't. And he won it, too. Don't forget about that. But, I I don't know what they do next for Bryan. I mean, they could move Roman. They could move Roman to back. If they move Roman to SmackDown, because a lot of people were thinking, well, they might move Roman to SmackDown. If they move Roman to SmackDown, then it would be really interesting, because then that would confuse a lot of the fans, because they wouldn't know if Brock would keep the title or not, because then you would have the elements of, oh, well, Brock possibly could be leaving. They said his contract that he re-signed was a short-term contract. Maybe it's only for this, month or whatever, the rest of this month or whatever, or maybe, they are bringing the Universal title to SmackDown, and AJ might go to Raw then, they could really swerve it next week on Raw, and really, really kind of, because a lot of times they try to do that, they'll have the opponent for the title match or the champion, be, going to the other brand, and then you have to figure out who's going to win and who's going to lose, and which titles are going to go over there. So, I mean, that's going to be the interesting thing about it, is how they determine, like, where everyone's going right now. Yeah, I don't think Lashley's going to get, like, because he just came back. I wish Bobby Lashley, they would have given him his old theme song and not this new one or whatever. I don't like his new theme song. What the hell is going on? It got, a new, Bobby Lashley's new theme song just doesn't do it for me. I liked his old theme song better from WWE. I really like to see Bobby Lashley get pushed. For anyone who doesn't know, I was a huge Bobby Lashley fan when he was in WWE the first time. I really liked him and liked his work, and I really wanted him to be the WWE champion, especially when they had that John Cena versus Bobby Lashley for the WWE championship at the Bash, because they were getting rid of the Great American Bash at the time. I think it was either the Great American Bash or it was the Bash. I think they changed it to the Bash that year, but it might have been the Great American Bash, or it might have been the next year when they changed it to the Bash. I don't recall, but I know it was that pay-per-view. And I was pissed when Lashley lost, because that's when John Cena was still doing that Super Cena shit, and they hyped that match, as Lashley being the next big guy or whatever, and then, Cena, being this, Superman type crap or whatever, and then and that was when they introduced the ultimate F5 off the turnbuckle thing, which AJ kicked out of. He's the first person to kick out of it. Bobby Lashley wasn't able to kick out of it. I still am pissed about that, because then 3 weeks later he got injured by Kennedy, and then they didn't promote him coming back, and he left. Then after that, I was so pissed about that. I really like to see him go up against Lesnar if, he stays on Raw. I'm assuming he stays on Raw, and, Brock stays on Raw. If Roman goes to SmackDown, though, and Daniel stays on SmackDown, that's going to be really interesting, too. Because, I said, they're probably going to keep them far away from each other as possible. But if they swerve us like that, who knows what they're going to do. I mean, for me, I think what they should do is, try to, there's one of two WrestleMania main event, or not really necessarily main events, but title matches that you could possibly do if you have, AJ and Roman stay on SmackDown. Is you can have AJ Styles, like, go up against Bryan for the WWE Championship. Doesn't matter who the belt holder is at that time at WrestleMania 35. Or you could do a Roman versus Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania next year too. That was another thing. It was like, because Roman obviously is a heel that gets, or he's a baby face that gets booed, but everyone hates him and he's a heel essentially to the fans. So, you could do that match for WrestleMania next year. That would. Yeah, but Brian, in that scenario, Brian would have to win if they were gonna do that match for next year, especially if it's the main event. If they do AJ versus Brian at WrestleMania next year, they would have to make that the main event. Like, I mean, oh my God, that has to be. Oh, do you know how many people would be so pissed that wasn't the main event? They wouldn't even give especially if they give Roman another main event match at WrestleMania. They'd freaking, oh my God, they would poo that shit so badly. But yeah, there are so many different possibilities for Daniel Bryan right now. Paige is the new general manager, so it seems like SmackDown general managers are basically people that have to unfortunately retire. It seems Bryan was able to come back. Not sure about if Paige will be able to come back. I mean, she was a star at one point, but she has lost a lot of stock with the whole personal issues she's had the last couple of years. So I don't know if WWE would be keen on letting her come back anyways, or if they would keep her for that matter, like they would for Daniel Bryan. But I don't know. I don't know what Paige's existing contract is, so I don't know. She has been actively on the roster still despite the injury, even though she hasn't been wrestling. She was, essentially the manager the last couple of months for Absolution, before taking over this general manager role and announcing her retirement last night. So her contract hasn't been frozen because she's been still on the road with them. But now that she's moving into this general manager role, I don't know how long she'll, be out for, in terms of, when her contract expires and if she wants to come back. Because I think she does want to come. I think she's kind of like Daniel Bryan. She wants to come back. So I don't know what will happen with her and her situation. Her injury is a little different from Daniel Bryan. She's got a neck injury, so and with the neck injuries, it really all depends on the person. Stone Cold had one. He had to Stone Cold didn't have to retire, but he just decided to do it. As a matter of fact, at that time, WWE didn't even want him to retire. They thought he wasn't retiring. That's why they never did. Like, when he went up against The Rock, that's why they didn't hype it as, his last match. If you go back to watching that, they kind of implied that Stone Cold was going to continue wrestling going into that storyline. So, I don't think WWE knew it was his last match. I know Stone Cold knew it was his last match, but I don't think WWE knew at that time that it was going to be his last match. So, I mean, it really depends. And Kurt Angle at WrestleMania 19 as well, everyone thought that was going to be his last match, and he came back and he continued on to have a, pretty good career, a longer career. There was actually, one point of people were like, well, why can't Stone Cold just do the same thing? Stone Cold had a different doctor than Kurt Angle's doctor, because Kurt Angle's from Pennsylvania and Stone Cold's from Texas. And I read some of his book. I read some of Stone Cold's book. And, he said, I didn't read all of it, but because it's long and hard. But the consensus I got from Stone Cold's book is that he, trusted his doctor, and that's why he didn't want to try. That's why he didn't want to do the surgery that Kurt Angle got, from his doctor, because his doctor basically helped Kurt Angle extend his wrestling career. So I don't know what Paige's plans is, and I'm not like I said, Edge kept going though. That was a different, like, Edge was at the absolute worst, he got the worst of it, and stuff like that. But yeah, dude, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what Bryan's future is in terms of what they're doing with him. Him being in a mid-card, feud, to me is beneath him at this point. I mean, he gets more crowd reaction than anyone on the roster still now that he's actively wrestling again. So you can't put him in some type of mid-card storylines. You got to have him in a main event storyline, whether it's for a title or not, whether it's for the world title or not. You have to put him in the main storylines. So they have to do something like that for him, That's why I think it would be wise to keep him on SmackDown, because with Brock, especially the ratings, down the way they have been for SmackDown, they need that. They need that badly, and with Raw, you got Braun Strowman there. Of course, he could be switched over too. I wouldn't like that, because I think Strowman needs to win that Universal title at some point. He's someone that people could believe in Brock losing or Brock getting beat to. Bobby Lashley is someone that you could believe in. Brock could get beat to. Bryan, unfortunately, even though Bryan would be the right person ideally, but in terms of realistically, can they honestly do that? I don't know. The way Brock is, and I don't know if Brock would be willing to put him over. I'm gonna put this guy over who, is small. I don't know if Brock would be willing to do that. I will say this though. Brock's best matches has been with small guys. Okay? His best match in WWE since coming back in 2012 was CM Punk versus Brock at SummerSlam. Okay? And then he just had another classic with AJ. Who, by the way, Brock actually demanded to go up against AJ. That came out. He didn't want to wrestle Jinder. Brock really did not want to wrestle Jinder. No. And that's why they took the belt off of him. They would have probably taken the belt off of him at the Clash of Champions anyways. But the reason why, AJ won it as quickly as he did, like on SmackDown right before the Survivor Series, and they changed that main event, was because Brock really didn't want to go up against Jinder. And I don't blame him, because Jinder sucks. I wouldn't want to go up against that train wreck either. And, at least, Brock was able to have, a much better, because I think the Survivor Series match was a lot better because it was AJ versus Brock rather than Jinder. I think the match with Jinder, if they had done the Jinder-Brock match, I think it would have been shit. I think it would have been absolute shit. His best matches are with them, but of course he wins in all of them. So they would have to somehow have Brock lose in some way where it looks like, Bryan won, but it was a fluke or something like that, or some roll up or something like. They would have to make it look like that. Where it was like, Brock took him for granted, and that's why he lost to Bryan or something like that. If they did that, if they had him come to SmackDown, or if, Bryan had to go to Raw and had to go up against him. But like I said, he has to go up against someone. He has to, with the fans behind him the way they are, you have to do something with them. So I don't know. Those are just kind of my little tidbits on some of the stuff that can be done with Bryan right now. Let me know what you guys think. What you guys think Daniel Bryan, where you think he, goes from here. Do you think he stays on SmackDown? Do you think he goes to Raw? What do you think they do with him right here? Let me know what you guys think. Comment, rate. If you like this video, please subscribe. And that's about it, guys. I am the SS Ultimate Goku. I'm out of here. Peace.